I used to believe that aging after 60 was an inevitable free fall. I watched men who were once incredibly strong suddenly stutter and disintegrate in just a few short years. But when I dove deep into the biological data, I realized I was wrong, completely wrong. The truth is, your biology doesn't collapse in a day. It isn't an explosion, it's a silent leak. It builds up like arterial plaque or insulin resistance. By the time you actually feel exhausted, your internal systems have already been neglected for years. I am not here to prescribe medication. I am here as a system decoder, helping humans operate persistently. Welcome to Vitality After 60. Those who maintain peak performance at 70 don't do so by luck. They operate based on the 1% health rule. This is the mathematics of biology. If you improve by just 1% every day, after a year you will be 37 times healthier. 1.01 to the 365th equals approximately 37.8. But if you let yourself decline by just 1% every day, 0.99 to the 365th, you end up at 0.03, which is essentially zero. That massive difference doesn't lie in heroic effort, it lies in rhythm. In this video, I will show you how to uncover hidden biological indicators and reset the rhythm so your body no longer has to borrow energy from the future. We're going to reverse biological collapse, 1% at a time. Most of us treat the health decline after 60 as a mood. We say, "I feel old," much like we say, "I feel sad." But biological collapse isn't a feeling, it's a measurable physiological state. The World Health Organization, WHO, defines this not as emotional fatigue, but as the chronic dysregulation of stress response systems. The core of this is the HPA axis, your biological command center. It controls cortisol, energy regulation, and sleep cycles. When it glitches, you don't just feel tired, your cells literally lose the ability to produce energy efficiently. Many believe aging means cortisol is always too high. Actually, the real danger is cortisol rhythm collapse. A healthy body has a morning peak for alertness and an evening trough for sleep. When you collapse, this curve flatlines. You wake up groggy because your morning peak is missing, and you go to bed restless because your evening cortisol remains high. A Mayo Clinic study found that those with a flat cortisol curve have a 5 times higher risk of chronic disease. This leads to being tired but wired. You're exhausted all day but can't shut down at night. Your biology is stuck in limbo. To compensate, you start living in energy debt, using caffeine and sugar to borrow alertness. But like any debt, this carries compound interest. You are borrowing from your future health until your internal recovery system goes bankrupt. Realizing that your feeling of old age is actually a systemic failure is the first step. You aren't just getting old, your rhythm is broken. When we realize our health is declining, our natural reflex is to seek a total overhaul. We reach for drastic diets or high-intensity workout programs. But the truth is, your body doesn't operate on revolutions, it operates on compound interest. Look at the mathematics of biology. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you don't just get slightly better, you actually become 37 times healthier and more resilient. The calculation is 1.01 to the 365th equals approximately 37.8. But if you let yourself decline by just 1% every day, 0.99 to the 365th, you end up at 0.03, which is essentially zero. Chronic diseases, from systemic inflammation to insulin resistance, never appear overnight. They're the result of small, silent errors accumulating over time. One night of poor sleep might not break you, but 365 nights of sleep deprivation will dismantle your immune system and your ability to recover. Lasting vitality at 60 doesn't come from sporadic heroic efforts. It comes from never stopping the small things. Your body doesn't care about your intentions, it cares about patterns. Those who maintain peak performance are the ones who understand that every small daily action is earning interest for their future health account. Biological collapse is often invisible to your feelings, yet it is glaringly evident in your data long before you notice exhaustion or lack of focus. 3 specific biomarkers can predict a collapse far earlier than any subjective symptom. First is blood sugar volatility. This isn't just about diabetes, it's about instability. When your blood sugar swings wildly, spiking after meals and crashing shortly after, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline to pull it back up. This triggers the late afternoon anxiety and irritability we often mistake for work stress. In reality, it's a metabolic false alarm. Second is heart rate variability, HRV. This is the most powerful measure of stress resilience. HRV tracks the time variation between heartbeats. A high HRV signifies a flexible, resilient nervous system. Conversely, a low HRV indicates you're stuck in a permanent fight or flight state. HRV often declines weeks before actual burnout symptoms appear. Third is the cortisol awakening response. This is your body's natural alarm clock. In a healthy system, cortisol should spike by approximately 50% immediately upon waking to provide energy and clarity. If your car is flat, you will feel exhausted the moment you open your eyes, even after a full 8 hours. The key here is predictability, not maximum performance. Your body doesn't require perfection, it requires stability to know what to expect next. When these indicators remain steady, your system operates with true persistence. Most people believe that biological collapse happens because they are overworked. In reality, it occurs when you live without rhythm. Your body is a symphony of oscillations. Hormones, body temperature, and cognitive performance all rise and fall in cycles. Everything is coordinated by your circadian rhythm, the 24-hour internal clock in your brain. When these cycles are consistent, your body operates with peak efficiency. When they are broken, everything begins to disintegrate. Imagine if the musicians in an orchestra ignored the conductor and played whenever they felt like it. The result wouldn't be music, it would be chaotic noise. This is exactly what happens when you drink caffeine at random hours, skip meals to maintain productivity, and go to bed only when the work is finished. Your body loses track of when to produce cortisol for alertness or melatonin for recovery. It stops optimizing and enters a state of constant survival mode. Those who maintain lasting energy after 60 don't necessarily work less, they maintain micro-consistency. Waking up at the same time every day within a 40-minute window, getting sunlight exposure immediately after waking, eating at predictable intervals. Do not let your schedule dictate your biology. Use rhythm to impose stability on chaos. Lasting vitality isn't about maximum performance, it's about rhythm. Traditionally, we treat anxiety as a purely psychological issue, turning to therapy or mindfulness. While valuable for many over the age of 60, anxiety doesn't start in the mind, it starts in your metabolism. A UCLA study tracked individuals prone to anxiety and found that 85% of episodes were triggered by blood sugar instability. When you eat something that causes a glucose spike, your pancreas releases insulin to bring it down. If insulin overshoots, your blood sugar crashes. Your body interprets this sudden drop as a mortal danger. In response, your adrenal glands pump out cortisol and adrenaline to pull your blood sugar back up. This surge increases your heart rate and muscle tension, the exact physical sensations we define as anxiety. You feel worried and search for an external reason to blame, but in reality, this is false anxiety driven by your metabolism. This also explains why drinking coffee on an empty stomach causes extreme jitters. Caffeine stimulates stress hormones when your blood sugar is already low, creating a shock to the system. Those who never burn out aren't just better at mind management, they're better at metabolic stability. They don't let their blood sugar fluctuate wildly, so stress never gets the chance to hijack their emotional system. When you master your blood sugar, you master your adrenaline and your emotions.
Our biggest mistake is believing that stress is the enemy. In truth, stress is a necessity for adaptation and growth. The real enemy is the recovery deficit. Consider the concept of allostatic load. This scientific term describes the cumulative wear and tear on the body resulting from chronic pressure. Imagine it as a backpack. Every worry, every sleepless night, or every poor meal is a rock placed inside. If you do not actively remove those rocks, the straps will eventually snap. That is the exact moment biological collapse occurs. At 60, your recovery gap narrows significantly. The body no longer repairs itself with the same speed it did in your 20s. If you constantly push yourself without tactical breaks, you are creating a biological debt with predatory interest rates. Real recovery is not sitting on the sofa watching TV or scrolling through your phone. True recovery is an active process of shifting your nervous system from fight or flight, sympathetic, to rest and digest, parasympathetic. If you do not consciously dedicate time to recover, your body will choose the worst possible moment to force you to rest, usually through severe illness or total burnout. Do not let that gap be filled by mere endurance. Fill it with active regeneration. The biggest mistake we make when trying to improve our health is waiting for motivation. We wait until we feel like walking or until we have the resolve to start eating healthy. But in the world of biology, motivation is an incredibly low-grade and unstable fuel. Why? Because motivation is an emotional state, and emotions are directly governed by dopamine and cortisol levels in the brain. If you sleep poorly, have low blood sugar, or just had a stressful day, your motivation will evaporate instantly. After 60, when biological reserves are no longer abundant, you cannot leave your future to something as volatile and unpredictable as a feeling. Those who are truly resilient do not rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Motivation is like a matchstick. It burns bright but goes out fast. A system is like firewood in a fireplace. It keeps you warm regardless of how bad the mood is outside. Instead of asking, "Do I want to do this today?" you must set your life up so that health becomes an automated operating system. The right strategy isn't forcing yourself to have iron willpower, it's reducing your dependence on willpower altogether. Design your environment and your rhythm so that following the 1% rule is easier than ignoring it. When health becomes an automated operating system, you no longer have to borrow mental energy just to sustain your life. The biggest mistake men over 60 make is viewing movement as a form of fitness, an effort to build muscle or lose weight. At this stage, movement must be understood as energy regulation. Your body is like an electrical grid. If the current does not flow, the system rusts and accumulates biological waste. Movement isn't just about burning calories. It is how you send signals to your mitochondria, the power plants within your cells, to keep producing and regenerating energy. When you do not move, your body concludes, "We don't need this much energy." As a result, it shuts down the internal reactors inside your cells, leaving you feeling even more exhausted and sluggish. This creates a downward spiral. You are tired, so you don't move, and because you don't move, you become even more tired. Under the 1% rule, movement doesn't necessarily mean heavy lifting or running marathons. It's about energy throughput. A brisk walk after a meal to stabilize blood sugar or simple stretching to decompress the nervous system are highly effective ways to regulate your energy levels. Don't train to be an athlete, move to keep your biological current flowing and to prevent the buildup of stagnation. We often view social relationships as part of our mental life or a personal hobby. However, in biology, social connection is a critical physiological buffer that protects your entire system. When you live in isolation or lack deep connection, your nervous system automatically enters a state of hypervigilance. From an evolutionary standpoint, an individual separated from the tribe is an individual in danger. Consequently, your body produces more cortisol and activates genes linked to chronic inflammation. A study from Brigham Young University highlighted that prolonged loneliness is as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. At 60, many men begin to withdraw after retirement or the loss of professional ties. This is a severe biological error. Without interaction, your allostatic load, systemic wear and tear, spikes because you lack a pressure valve to release neural tension. Connection isn't necessarily about loud parties. It's about the presence of people that make your nervous system feel safe. When you feel understood and secure, your body releases oxytocin, a powerful hormone capable of neutralizing the negative effects of cortisol and protecting your cardiovascular system. The 1% rule here is don't wait until you feel lonely to reach out. Make connection part of your daily operating system. A phone call, a coffee date, or joining a community aren't just social activities, they're essential maintenance for your biological hardware. The final step isn't seeking a magic pill, it's establishing a 6-pillar operating protocol to maintain your biological system daily. Number 1, circadian synchronization. Wake up at the same time and get 15 minutes of sunlight to reset your entire hormonal clock. Number 2, metabolic stability. Follow the specific eating order, fiber, then protein, then carbohydrates, to eliminate glucose shocks, prevent false anxiety, and maintain steady energy. Number 3, movement flow. Never stay static for more than 2 hours. Short bursts of movement signal your mitochondria, power plants, to remain in active production mode. Number 4, allostatic discharge. Dedicate at least 10 minutes every afternoon to breathing exercises or walking to actively shift your nervous system from fight to recovery. Number 5, social anchoring. Schedule at least one high-quality conversation daily to trigger oxytocin, your body's most powerful buffer for cardiovascular protection. And number 6, recovery cave optimization. Set up a dark, cool, tech-free bedroom to maximize nocturnal cellular repair and brain detoxification. Biological collapse doesn't happen simply because you grow old. It happens because your system stops being maintained. At 60, your strongest weapon is 1% compound interest. By implementing these 6 pillars, you aren't just playing defense, you are building an ultra-resilient body capable of withstanding significant stress. Aging is a law of nature, but collapse is a choice. Choose the system, choose the rhythm, and start building your fortress today. Thank you for taking the time to explore your biological operating system with me. Remember, aging is a law, but collapse is a choice. If this insight was helpful, please like and subscribe to join our community of resilient men. Don't forget to comment below with the 1% habit you're starting today. Stay strong, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next one.